Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us for this destination spotlight on the treasures of Egypt. We'll start in just a few minutes. So in the meantime, of course, let us know where you're tuning in from. Welcome, Barb. Hello, Robin from Ohio, Chapin, California. Our friends from Canada, as always, representing. Thank you for joining us. Hi, John from Iowa. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Christine from Mass, welcome. Sasha, thank you for joining us. All right, let's give it just a few more minutes for more people to join us. Hello, Edson and Sue from Michigan. Carol from Phoenix, Linda from Michigan as well, welcome. Deborah from Arizona. Daly from Minnesota, welcome. Just one more minute and we will get started. Saw Death on the Nile yesterday, Anthony. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see that movie. Okay, I think we can get started here. All right. Well, hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Claudia and I'm from the Go Ahead team. For today's travel talk, we are virtually traveling to Egypt to learn more about the top sites and places you need to visit when you visit this country. We are joined today by expert tour director Heba, live from Cairo. She's here to share her stories and expertise with you all and will introduce herself in just a moment. So the plan today is to walk through some webinar tips so you can maximize your time with us. Then our beloved tour director will take it away and tell you all you need to know about Egypt while sharing her insights and stories. And then of course, we'll host a Q&A session to answer your questions. So I think we can go ahead and get started, Heba. So Egypt may be known for ancient treasures and rich history, but there's so much more to this nation than you might expect, from surreal waters and golden sand beaches to remarkable architecture and ancient temples. Egypt is definitely worthy of your bucket list. Having been there myself, not once, but twice last year, I can say that I fell in love with each and every corner of Egypt, and I cannot wait to go back this year. Now I'd like to introduce your wonderful speaker for today, Heba. Heba, would you be so kind to introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this webinar. I hope you will enjoy it, and it will be like just an appetizer to let you come and quickly to Egypt to visit our beautiful country. Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Heba. Heba actually in Arabic language has a very nice significance. It simply means a gift. So I hope when you are visiting Egypt, I'll be your gift to tell you all about it. I've been part of Go Ahead team, luckily me, for like 18 years or so. I studied all about history, archaeology, monuments since I graduated from the Faculty of Tourism and Guidance. I spent 4 years after I finished my high school preparing myself to be a tour director or a tour guide. So I studied all about this, hieroglyphics, languages, everything. And actually in 2010, I was able also to get my PhD degree in the same field. which is history as well. And I'm a mother of two young ladies, 24 and 23. This 23 young lady have already got married last October. So I'm so proud to be part of Go Ahead team, and I'm so proud to be part of your webinar today. I hope you will be able to virtually visit all the beautiful sites that we're having in our country and enjoy it. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you so much, Heba. Now, some of you might not be familiar with Egypt's location. So Heba, can you actually tell us more about the geography of Egypt?
Of course. So you can see Egypt is located actually in kind of like the northeast part of Africa. And Egypt occupies an area of about 1 million square kilometers, but what's actually inhabited by people, it's only 5 to 6%, because as you can see, the Egyptian land is basically desert. So we're surrounded from the east by the Eastern Desert that separates the area of the Red Sea, the part of the Red Sea in Egypt and Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and so on. And we have also on the western part, the Western Desert or the Sahara that separates Egypt from Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, and all this. The area that's actually inhabited by people in Egypt, it is the Nile Delta and the Nile shore. Still, we get as down as the borders between us and Sudan, and the areas of the seashores of the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. And as you can see, because of the diversity of land and sea, river that we're having in Egypt, it's also a diversity in the time that you can spend in Egypt. You can do desert safari, you can do some water sports on the Mediterranean or the Red Sea, you can snorkel, you can dive, you can see the corals. You can do a lot of also cultural trips. So you can visit the Abu Simbel temple, you can visit the temples of Luxor and Aswan, you can go to the pyramids of Giza, you can go to Cairo, you can actually do everything that you might think about in Egypt. And since we have this diversity also of geography in terms of sea and desert, it's also diversity in terms of weather. So you'll find that we are very, very hot when it comes to summer, because it's more like a desert weather, you can imagine. So it's very hot, it's very sunny. Sometimes in the big cities like Cairo and Alexandria, it's also humid. And it's not that cold in winter. So we're talking about average of 100 to 120 Fahrenheit in summer. And we're talking about 70s to 80s Fahrenheit in winter. So that's the average kind of like climate that we're having here. And of course, we're not a rainy country. We're talking about 1.5 inches of rain. That's the total amount. That's why we're depending mainly on the Nile River as our source of fresh water.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Heba. Now let's dive right in. Top 10 sites and places you must visit when you're in Egypt. Our countdown actually begins with the Grand Muhammad Ali Mosque. So Heba, can you tell us why this place made our top 10?
Okay, first of all, we need to know who is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is not Muhammad Ali Clay, the boxer that we all know. Actually, Muhammad Ali Clay have named himself after our Muhammad Ali. And our Muhammad Ali was just a soldier in the Turkish army when the Turks were ruling Egypt. And he got so close to the politicians here and convinced them that he is Mr. Right to the country. And they convinced the Turkish Sultan by that. And he was assigned to be the ruler or the viceroy over Egypt in 1805. And since he became the ruler, he decided to make the rule of Egypt as part of his inheritance. So he declared a decree saying that all his sons to come will inherit the throne of Egypt after his death, and they will be also titled as the kings of Egypt. That's why when we refer to the royal family, we mean the family of Muhammad Ali. He and his family ruled Egypt for almost 150 years. So the last descendant of his family was King Farouk, who left Egypt in 1952 when the army officers declared Egypt to be a republic. He decided in the year 1830 to build for himself a ruling palace and a mosque in the area of the citadel. The citadel that was built in 1070 AD by Saladin or Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, who was fighting the Crusades and preventing them from entering Egypt at that time. So he built a huge fortress and surrounded with a huge enclosure wall. Then in 1830, Muhammad Ali decided to build for himself a beautiful mosque, the one that you're looking at right here. And he called it actually the Alabaster Mosque because 11.5 meters of its outside and inside is tiled with alabaster. And if you look at the shape of the mosque, it's similar to the Blue Mosque of Sultan Ahmad in Istanbul, the same kind of design, and similar also to the Hagia Sophia, with the style of domes and minarets. However, this one is even much more fancier and elaborate compared to that of Sultan Ahmad in Istanbul. The mosque right here is so famous for its domes. It's about 52 meters high, and the minarets is about 162 meters high. The use of which was to call for the prayer 5 times a day, so the people could know that that's the time of the prayer. They can pray in their houses or inside. Also, what is so significant about this mosque that it has the mausoleum of Muhammad Ali inside. So he's actually buried in there. This is the outside part of the mosque where we have the ablution fountain decorated with the Rococo and the Barocco and all these kind of beautiful arcades that have some nice shallow domes that people can, rest after they maybe wash themselves in ablution before they go inside the prayer court. The prayer court is so nice from the inside. It has all the beautiful elaborate chandeliers and the beautiful alabaster walls, beautiful big windows with brass kind of nets. You can see all these beautiful decorations that we're having here, whether for the ceiling, which is all 24 karat gold, or for the pulpit. And you can see the mosque is spacious. It's about 5,000 people can pray inside, with the pulpit where the imam is going to climb the stairs and preach and the people and tell them about some of the stories of Islam or whatever. And that happens actually in noon prayers on Friday. And of course, being an Islamic country, Egypt takes Friday off as its holiday. And that's where the people are coming to the mosque at noontime to attend the prayer in the mosque.
Perfect. Heba, I actually went to the Muhammad Ali Mosque when I was there, and it was extremely impressive and
yes, it's
beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so let's continue our journey here. Next on our list is exploring Islamic Cairo. Heba, tell us more about this area.
Okay, so talking of which, I mean that Egypt is an Islamic country and we take Friday off as our holiday. It's important to understand that Islam is not only a religion, it's actually a way of life. So when you walk around Islamic medieval Cairo, that's where you're going to explore why it was actually a way of life. So you can see that people are offering places for charity, like not only mosques for the people to pray, but also water, charity places, because before people used to sell the water in goat skin and place it in kind of big pottery jars for the people to drink or to bath with. But those who cannot afford to buy the water, what they're going to do, they're going to go to these charity places where they can have a public bath for free, where they can have some drinking water for free. So when you walk around the Islamic Cairo, you'll be able to see a lot of those buildings with these beautiful Islamic decorations. You can see Al-Azhar Mosque, which is an Islamic big university, not only in Egypt, it's in the whole Middle East. That's where all the sheikhs or the imams, before they actually assigned to the mosques to be leaders in this mosque, had to be graduated from Al-Azhar University. They will study all about the Islamic sciences. They will know the Prophet Muhammad's sayings by heart, the Quranic verses, all this. So they will be perfectly educated to assign to hold this kind of position in the mosques. You can see also.
Heba, we have a quick question from Charlotte. And Charlotte is wondering, can the mosque be photographed inside?
Yes, we had nothing to hide. You can take all the photos that they want. Yes, from the inside and the outside. We have two beautiful mosques right here. The one to the left-hand side, that's actually Sultan Hassan. It's not only a mosque, but a school, a Bemeristan or a healing hospital, library, mosque, all in one. And that's actually where President Obama, when he came to Egypt, he gave his speech in that mosque. Then the one to the right-hand side, that's a Rifa'i mosque. That's where we have the mausoleum of the late Shah of Iran is there. He's buried there. And all the royal family members, I mean, the family of Muhammad Ali, like King Fuad, like King Farouk, the ladies and Queen Ferial and so on, all of them are buried over there. And if you look in this kind of panoramic view that you can see from here, actually Cairo, one of its titles is the city of 1,000 minarets. So if you look precisely and closely, you're able to see lots and lots of minarets all around while you're moving. And by the way, we're still having the call of the prayer right here in Egypt live. So when you are walking along the streets, you might hear the call from so many mosques surrounding you. And it's such a holy and spiritual call that you can hear it while you're walking along. Then you can see also the outside parts of the mosque where people can sit and chit chat before the prayer. Sometimes they can do also some kind of like business meetings if they want. Some families even get to know one another, and maybe they will end up, introducing their boy and girl together for marriage. And so it's a kind of a social and spiritual and religious place for the people to meet. Not only that, but also around Islamic Cairo, when you walk along, you can see that part of these buildings are in the middle of the markets, like the Sabil Kutab that you can see right in front of you, where you can see the Mashrabiya, which is the little window that have a little shutter to open so the ladies inside can overlook whoever in the street without the people see them upstairs. And also there is what we call the Mashrabiya. That's where they put the water for drinking. The word ishrab is like to drink. So they put the pottery jars and cover it with some kind of like linen cloth wet with water in a kind of a breathy place, so it will keep it as cold as being in a refrigerator. And then also you can see the beautiful separation in the houses between what we call the salamlik and the haramlik. Salamlik, it's like the open reception area for men together, and haramlik, it's driven from the word harim or haram, which is the ladies. So that's where the ladies are going to have their own privacy, to have their own party, to enjoy and to have fun. So when we're walking along the Islamic Cairo Park, that's where the people can overlook and see and explore all these areas together.
Heba, we actually got another question from Martian, and Martian is wondering, what should women wear inside the mosque to be respectful?
Just not to wear anything that off shoulder or shorts. Apart from this, anything else is perfect, and they don't need to cover their heads. And for both men and women going inside the mosque, we either take off the shoes or we can have like a shoe cover on the top of the shoe while we're getting inside, simply because Muslims, when they pray, they kneel and they bend on the floor, they put their forehead on the floor. So just to keep the floor clean for them to do that, that's why we either take off the shoes or we just put an overcover on the top of the shoe just to keep the place clean. That's all.
Perfect.
Then you can see some of the beautiful, you're welcome. You can see some of the beautiful mosques along here. We can see also Wikala, which is like a little market, and like a small khan or motel in the same place. So that's how they used to build the mosques before, to encourage the foreigners to come and to know more about Islam, so they can come and stay for a night or two during the big markets. And at the same time, they can be having a place to pray and be part of the Islamic neighborhood.
All right, perfect. So next on our list is discovering Coptic Cairo. So Heba, what can our travelers expect to see in this area?
Okay, let's talk about Copts to begin with. Actually, 15%, 1/5 of our population are Christians. And the Christians that we're having here in Egypt, they are the Greek Orthodox Christians. We don't have much Catholics or Protestants. The majority are Orthodox. And actually, the word Copt have been driven from the ancient word referring to Egypt as Gebt, which means the fertile land or the dark land. And when the Romans started the persecution for the Egyptian Christians here at the end of the 1st century and the beginning of the 2nd century AD, that's when the Copts started to identify themselves by giving themselves the title of Copts. So when you ask somebody about his religion back then, he would say, I'm Coptic, just to identify his religion. However, the word Coptic was just given to all Egyptians. So before Christianity, anyone can be Coptic. That means that he's coming from Egypt, that's all. After that, the Christians, as I said, they started to identify themselves, and they remained under the persecution for the Romans just for a couple of centuries, until when the Arabs came to introduce Islam around the 7th century. That's when they encouraged the Christians, if they want to keep their faith, to keep it. And they even restored all their churches, and they even allowed them to build as many churches as they want. So the area of Coptic Cairo, that's where we can see more than 11 churches. The most important is the one that you're looking at, which is the hanging church or the suspended church. And we call it the hanging or the suspended because it was built over two of the Roman fortress of Babylon, two towers of the Roman fortress of Babylon. So it has no foundation on the floor. It's just suspended or hanged between the two towers. It's a beautiful place, dating back to the 5th century. More than 125 icons are inside, including icons for the different saints, angels, of course, Virgin Mary and Jesus. That's from the inside. You can see the ceiling is made out of wood, vaulted, taking the shape of Noah's Ark. However, the main body is like a main nave and 2 aisles with 6 columns at each side, representing the 12 apostles. Then you can see also the pulpit in the middle, that's with a leader in the front, with a pair of columns at each side, representing also the 12 apostles. The icons are all over the place, and you can see also boxes for the relics of the different saints, where people can light up candles, write little prayers for the relics of those beautiful saints, hoping that they will fulfill their prayers. And they're having also some beautiful lanterns inside, and it's one of the very nice holy places for the people to visit. Also, we have another beautiful church in the area of Coptic Cairo, which is the St. Sergius, or the Church of the Cave, where we have the cave of inside which Virgin Mary and Jesus used to flee at while they're when they flee from Palestine to here. They hide in this kind of cave. So it's by far older than the 3rd century, but the actual building of the church itself dates back to the 5th century as well, with a collection of beautiful icons, as you can see, elaborated with different beautiful marble columns, and it's one of the very holy places to visit as well.
How about when I visited the hanging church, I remember seeing this sign that read, Jesus slept here when he fled to Egypt. And I just couldn't believe that I just stumbled upon that. It was just incredible.
Yes.
Now, Egypt, of course, it's known for its impressive museums filled with awe-inspiring antiquities. So naturally, you have to visit a museum when you visit Egypt. So Heba, which museum should definitely be visited during a trip here?
Of course, it's the Egyptian Museum, which is located in the downtown of Cairo, in the main big square, which is Tahrir Square or Liberation Square. That's the square that people have seen during 2011 when we had the revolution. The Egyptian Museum is a huge place. More than 250,000 pieces is inside the Egyptian Museum. So if we spent a week, we won't be able to cover everything inside. But normally we always have a visit for like half a day to allow our visitors to enjoy the highlights in the museum, like the important statues and statuettes, like the collection of King Tutankhamun, like some of the beautiful mummies inside. So what are you looking at right here? It's the entrance of the museum with the atrium, where we have the biggest statues at the bottom. It's for King Amenhotep III and his wife Queen T. with their children behind their legs. That's the parents of King Akhenaten or Amenhotep IV, the first king who called for monotheism. You can see here the beautiful carved sandstone statue that extends for 21 meters in height. And you can see the fancy and the highly representation of carving for the ancient Egyptian artists. The museum also is having a huge collection for specialized rooms, like we have a special room for woodwork, another room for bronze, third one for small maquettes. Of course, two huge corridors are having the collection of our beautiful King Tutankhamun, the one that you can see his mask right now, that weighs about 11 kilograms of gold inlaid with lapis lazuli, turquoise and carnelian and other precious stones, plus all the beautiful collection of King Tutankhamun, like his solid golden coffin. And you can see also his bracelets, collars, earrings, all his collection is kept there, plus also some of his furniture. So you can see his throne, you can see his bed, you'll be able to see some of the nice beautiful items over there in the museum. We'll get to see also some of the mummies, like that of Yoya and Thoya, the grandparents of Tutankhamun. However, if you'd like to meet King Tutankhamun in person, I mean, to see his mummy, you have to visit his tomb in the Valley of the Kings. Talking of which, about the mummies, I don't know if some of our audience have seen this beautiful parade that had taken place last April, which is the Golden Mummy Parade, where 22 royal mummies of kings and queens have been moved from the Egyptian Museum to the Museum of the National Civilizations, and it was a huge parade. It was transmitted all over the world, and that's when our mummies received a royal military funeral. So if you wish to see some parts of this parade with us now, for those who haven't seen it, you will see how impressive it is. So please, Claudia, can we see part of it?
Of course.
King Tutmosis III, our great pharaoh. As you can see, the mummies parade started from inside the Egyptian Museum, where the mummies were kept on the second floor. And you see the actors, they were all wearing the pharaonic style or the ancient Egyptian style in their makeup, their clothing, even the lamps and the lanterns that they are holding. President Sisi was attending the parade. You see even the kids were enjoying the celebration. They made a parade including every site in Egypt. So you can see they were celebrating it in the Tahrir Square, where the Egyptian Museum is located, in the pyramids area, in some of the temples, in Luxor and in Aswan, almost in every historical site in Egypt. They were celebrating the transmit of the mummies from the Tahrir Square, the museum, to the new museum. So that's here, the door is open to allow the mummies out from the Egyptian Museum, taking their way to the National Museum of Civilizations. You can see the beautiful museum all lit up. The building is spectacular. It's built by Mariette, one of our French Egyptologists, taking the Greek-Roman style, its way of architecture. We have goddess Isis adorning the facade. We have the lotus and the papyrus at the garden with all the pieces that you can see, whether inside the museum or outside. They are all real, genuine pieces, no copies, no duplicates. The only copy piece that you get to see when you get inside the museum, it is the copy of the Rosetta Stone, where the original now is in the British Museum. Then you can see the military march. You can see the beautiful representation here in the Hatshepsut's temple and the Valley of the Kings in the West Bank. And you can see these vans and trucks that have been made. They were actually manufactured especially for the occasion. Each truck has the name of the king or the queen transmitted in. and you will see the military march with even the cannons. Each king, as soon as he passes in front of the parade, 21 bullets was to be made or celebrated the movement of the king or the queen. So it was a kind of a military funeral for those royal kings. They received all the delicacy and all the honor for them moving from the old museum to their new location. So that's something else waiting for you to see when you come to Egypt to visit these royal mummies in their final location in the Egyptian Civilization Museum.
So wonderful, Heba. I just can't believe they had a specific car for each of them. It's just so wonderful.
Yes.
Now, let's move away a little bit from Cairo to visit Aswan. So Heba, what makes Aswan so special?
Okay, Aswan, if we're going back to the map again, it's 1,000 kilometers to the south of Cairo. So it is like, let's say, almost the farthest point to the south, if we're talking about Cairo. The weather, of course, much warmer because it's further south. The beauty of nature over there is spectacular. Aswan is full of lots and lots of islands. We call it the city of love because we have the temple of Isis and Philae, and she was the goddess of love. We have all the beauty of nature in the formation of the stones in the islands. You can see the sailboats, you can see the motorboats, you can see vegetation everywhere you go. It's a place of serenity. It's a place of peace of heart and peace of mind. When you go there, you feel that you have something touched you from the inside. The Nubians who are inhabiting Aswan are very, very kind people. Their features are so beautiful with their beautiful smile all the time. They have a special language for themselves that we don't really understand, and but they preserve their culture, they preserve their language. They are so kind. You'll find them everywhere you go in Aswan, in the sailboats, in the markets, everywhere you go. There's also the beautiful look wherever you stay, whether in a Nile Cruise or in one of the hotels in Aswan. That will be a scene that you can see from your balcony, for example. So you can see the vegetation, you can see the mountains of the desert on the west side, and you can see also the serenity of the Nile itself, very peaceful right in front of you. You can see the Elephantine Island, which is right in front of the Cataract Hotel. That's where we're having the temple of the creator god Khunum, and we have also some beautiful restaurants. And the Cataract Hotel actually is one of the palaces that was built by King Farouk so that he can spend the winter in that pleasant place with the pleasant weather. And that's where actually the movie of Death on the Nile, that the novel that have written by Agatha Christie, she wrote it actually over there, and we still have her disc and her typewriter, the one she was using while she's typewriting this novel in the Cataract Hotel in a special corner known as Agatha Christie Corner. And part of the movie have been filmed also at the outside terrace. That's part of the view that you can see, and you can see now, we'll see now the Cataract Hotel itself, where you can see the beautiful building with the beautiful terrace, and right in front of it, the Elephantine Island. It is the best spot actually when you are in Aswan to overlook the Nile at that spot. Yeah, that's here, the Cataract Hotel. You can see the beauty of nature surrounding it. You can see the Elephantine Island right in front of it. You can see also the terrace, and you can see the presidential suite where all the important VIPs have stayed over there during their visit to Aswan. And it's one of the pleasant and peaceful places that you will ever visit in all over the world, in Aswan.
So beautiful, Heba. Now, speaking of the Nile, next on our list is, of course, cruising the Nile. So, Heba, can you tell us more about this experience?
Of course. First of all, we need to know a bit about the Nile. The Nile River is considered to be the longest river in the world. If we added all the extensions of it, if we're not going to add its extensions, it will be the third longest after the Mississippi and Amazon. However, when we're adding all the extension, we have to know that it starts from the Lake of Victoria in Tanzania, that's the Blue Nile, and the Lake Tana in Ethiopia, that's the White Nile. Both of them, they gather together in Khartoum, which is the capital of Sudan. And then they meet together and they come to us where it pours in the Mediterranean in the north of Egypt. The Nile River, when you look at the map, you will see that it is one of almost 3 or 4 rivers in all over the world that runs from the south to the north. So that's why for us, the southern part of the Nile is Upper Egypt and the northern part of the Nile is Lower Egypt. And it pours in the Mediterranean in the north of Egypt. The Nile River is also a very mild river to cruise at. So our cruises will be like a floating hotel. You won't even feel that we are actually navigating or we are cruising. But you can enjoy the beautiful serenity of the Nile. You can see, you can also enjoy the beautiful scenery around, like the cultivation along the Nile, like the beautiful mountains here and there. And since the Nile is our main source of fresh water, so it is actually also our main source of irrigation. So that's why you can see a lot of fields are to the right and left of the Nile banks. So when you are cruising, you'll be able to see some of this farm life around you. So you'll be able to see the farmers with their animals, their houses and so on. And also the Nile used to flood before. And when it used to flood, it gets so close to the pyramids, as you can see here in that slide. But after we built the high dam in 1968, now the flood have been controlled, and the water of the Nile, the extra water of the flood or the Nile, we are receiving it or having it in the reservoir, which is Lake Nasser, and we can use it in the drought seasons so that we can always keep up with the level of the water for our consumption every year. So when you are cruising the Nile, whether with a sailboat or in a cruise ship, you can always feel the beautiful breeze and enjoy the scenery where you can see the farmers, you can see the mountains, we can see on the top of this, like what we call like the dome of the air, they call it. It was nothing but kind of like checking points and some kind of security points, but later on people started to feel some kind of like superstitious feeling about it, and they feel that some of the saints are buried there and so on, and they start cherishing it somehow. You can see those are kind of like the cruise ships that you can sometimes also in our cruise will stop right in front of one of the temples. So like this one here, which is Komombo Temple, you don't need even to take a bus or to take a little ferry to go to. No, you just move on from your cruise ship direct to the temple and explore it. It's one of the beautiful temples, which is Komombo Temple. And by the way, it is dedicated to one of the deities that takes the shape of a crocodile, which is Gatsobakra. Since we don't have any crocodiles anymore on the Nile, all the crocodiles have been trapped beyond the dam after the construction of the dam. But if you'd like to see a crocodile, you can see one inside the Komombo Temple, and you'll be able to see also some of the mummified crocodiles that we have a special museum for them right there in Komombo.
Heba, we have a quick question from Susan, and Susan is wondering, when does the Nile flood?
The Nile flood normally on the second half of August or the beginning, the first week of September. So it's like end of August, beginning of September, because that is the winter time in the below half of the globe in Ethiopia and in Tanzania. So that's their winter. So that's when they have the rainfall. That's when these kind of lakes rises, having the flood for us, which is our summer. That's why that's also the most humid season for us right here, because that's the time of the flood.
Great, thank you. Now, next up is visiting, of course, the world famous Valley of the Kings. Heba, tell us more about the different sites travelers can visit here.
Okay, the Valley of the Kings is always known as the West Bank. And I always highlight it's our West Bank, not the West Bank that you know. Because sometimes people, when they read, are we visiting the West Bank? Yes, we are, but the West Bank of Egypt. And actually the ancient Egyptians, because they compare their lives with the sun, so they chose the west side being the death side, that's where the sun sets, and the eastern side, it's where they live. So where the areas that they're going to have, like, let's say the cult temples, that's the temples that they're going to worship the gods at, that will be on the east side. However, their tombs and their mortuary temples, that will be on the west side. So the Valley of the Kings is situated on the west because it's where we have the tombs of the kings and the queens, and also some temples like that of Queen Hatshepsut, the temple that you're looking at. That's also one of the mortuary temples where people will come and contribute to the gods and for the souls and the spirits of the ancestors. So they will come and visit the West Bank to contribute to the dead and also to contribute to the different gods to protect the dead during the journey that they're going to take from this life to the afterlife. Because when they compare their lives with the sun, they found that there will be a journey composed of almost like 12 hours. So 12 hours, 6 under the ground and 6 above in the sky. So they need protection during this journey. That's why on the East Bank, which is in the Temple of Karnak, like the one that you're looking at right here, that's during their lifetime at the east side, they will be contributing for the gods and having lots of offerings to secure this journey. So they believe that as good as the person will be in his lifetime, as easy his journey will be in the afterlife. So that's why during his lifetime, he have to come to the temple, contribute to the god, pray to the god, show his good intentions so the god will help him in the afterlife. And right in front of the Karnak temple here, you can see the Sphinx Avenue that have been also recently opened in a kind of a beautiful parade as well last November. And it extends for 2.5 kilometers, linking the temple of Karnak here with the temple of Luxor. And it extended on the West Bank side to continue to the temple of Queen Hatshepsut on the other side, which is lying on the same axis as that temple of Karnak right here. The Karnak temple from the inside is spectacular. And the most important is the hall of columns, the one that you're looking at. That's when you go inside, that's when I'm going to hear your big wow when you see the temple and you see the columns. Look at the perspective. Compare the size of one of our guards here in the temple with the size of the columns. Look at the size of the inscription of the hieroglyphics with the name of King Ramses II and his father Seti I. Look at all these beautiful decorations and the beautiful colors, that they are the exact colors since 1250 BC till today, intact colors, no change, no restoration. It is since antiquity where you can see these beautiful colors. You can see also some colors inside the tombs, like the tomb of Ramses IV, the tomb of Ramses IX. Of course, your guide will be explaining to you all the scenes that you get to see inside the tombs, since they're not allowed to be with you inside, and give you an idea about the main theme of the tomb. And you'll find some of the tombs are so deep because the ancient Egyptians believed that the longer the king will live, the longest his tomb will be. So it's not allowed to finish the tomb before the death of its owner. So as long as he's still alive, the work inside his tomb will still go on. But of course, the beautiful decorations that you're going to see will take place during the time of mummification, where you'll be able to see some strange figures inside with different deities, with different representation of different animals. All this, of course, will be explained to you. Also, when you look at the ceiling of some of the tombs, that's when you're going to see the goddess Nut, the goddess of the sky, while she's bent over and she's swallowing and ejecting the sun at sunset and sunrise. And you can see her body will be all adorned with stars, all decorated in blue. And again, all the colors that you're going to see inside the tombs, they are the original colors since antiquity until today. No restoration took place regarding that. And of course, we're going to ask you when you come, how do you think the Egyptians made those colors? And when you give up, we're going to tell you the answer. Then you can see all these beautiful colors and the fragments of the different coffins that you can see right here. And you'll get to understand the mythology of the ancient Egyptians and their belief about the afterlife, about heaven and hell, and how they were judged in the afterlife, how their spirits will spend the time till the resurrection hour will come. And all this will be explained to you while you're visiting the temples and while you're visiting the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Queens, and all the tombs that we get to see in the west and the east side of the Nile in Luxor.
Wonderful. All right. So next up is a personal favorite. Heba, tell us all about Abu Simbel and why it made our top 10 list.
Okay. Abu Simbel is one of the rockly cut temples made by Ramses II. And it's amazing that the first trial for building this temple was on the second anniversary of her death. His beloved wife, Queen Nefertari, he decided to dedicate a temple for her worship, identifying herself with Hathor. So he built a smaller temple next to that one dedicated for her, and he made some statues for himself inside. And when the experiment was successful, he decided to build a bigger one dedicated to him as a god. So in the temple of Abu Simbel, Ramses II, among three other deities, was regarding himself or looking upon himself as a deity or as a god himself. So it was dedicated to God Amun-Ra, God Rahur-Akhti, the horizon god, God Ptah, and himself, God Ramses II himself. What is so amazing about this temple, not only that it's totally rock-cutted in the mountain, with this huge size that you can see, the facade is about 35 meters in height. Not only that, but it is one of the projects of the UNESCO. More than 11 temples have been rescued during the construction of the high dam for us when the water of the Nile started to rise up because of the flood and because of the construction of the dam. That was the call of help was sent to 35 countries, and about 25 of them answered the call of help, and they decided to come and help us in moving the temples. So I'm always saying that what makes that temple so special, not only that it was built with this perfection, but also that it was moved. And no one can tell and no one can find a clue when you are visiting the temple, whether from the inside or the outside, that it had been moved. Again, look at the different perspective when you look at the size of the people around, to the size of the facade of the statues of Ramses II that you can see in front of you. And when you get inside, you'll be able to see the beautiful colors for the Battle of Qadesh that he depicts inside the scenes of it. He fought the Hittite king, and it was a kind of an exaggeration that he said after 80 years of struggle, he ruled for 67 years only. So he didn't actually fight for 80 years, but it was a kind of an exaggeration. But inside also, we found the first written peace treaty in the world signed between Ramses II and the Hittite king. And as a part of the concealment, Ramses II had to marry the daughter of the Hittite king. So he depicts inside all his military campaigns and all the scenes for the different deities that he's offering to them, and he's gaining their support. And also showing the world his power and his control over the enemies, being the second longest reign king who ruled for 67 years. He had to show us why he remained on the throne for all this long time by this beautiful temple that he built.
Wonderful. Heba, before we continue, we have a question from Diana, and Diana is wondering, are there still people who worship the ancient Egyptian gods?
In Egypt, no. In Egypt, after the heaven religions, basically we are just believing in the heaven religions. But outside the country, yes. And actually we have lots of groups who would sometimes come to visit the country in certain timings of the year. And they actually open the touristic sites with the special openings, like let's say before dawn or after sunset by an hour or so. And they practice certain rituals inside those touristic sites because they still believe in this religion, and they believe in the incarnation of souls or spirits. So you can meet one of them and she would say, I was Isis before and I come here to fulfill one of the oracles of Isis or things like that. But as Egyptians, no.
Okay. Great. Well, good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we are reaching our top 2 sites to visit when in Egypt. Number 2 on our list, of course, is the Great Sphinx. So Heba, tell us more about the history of this site.
Okay. Actually, the word Sphinx is a Greek word, which means to combine or to mix the human wisdom with the lion's power. That's why it's a human head on a lion's power. And this name have been driven actually from the ancient Egyptian name, which is Tishib Ankh, which means the living image. That's why whether we are in the museum or along in front of the temples, you'll be able to see a lot of those Sphinx Avenue, or people or kings are depicting themselves in the form of a Sphinx so that they would love to have a living image that will last forever. And the Sphinx actually was just made by coincidence when it was a huge rock left from the quarry used in building the Great Pyramid. And due to its bad quality, they couldn't cut into smaller pieces. So they decided to leave it the way it is. And when King Kefren was visiting his own pyramid, he found this ugly piece facing it from the eastern side. So he asked one of his architects to do something about it. So he suggested that we can add the headpiece and carve the body of the block itself in a Sphinx body, or in a lion's body, and then they will end up having a Sphinx with the facial features of King Kefren protecting his pyramid from the east. He liked the idea, and they made it the way you can see it here. And as you can see, the body of the Sphinx itself started to erode and shrink. That's when they started to have these restorating projects to protect the actual block. So you can see some small stones surrounding the pose of the Sphinx, and they're about to continue the whole body to preserve the actual block. And you can still see some traces of colors on the right cheek and the right eyebrow and the eyelid of the statue right here, and kind of darkish red color. And we can also see a kind of a dreaming stela between the pose of the Sphinx. That's dating back to the time of Thutmose IV, who could not attend the throne of Egypt at that time. So he claimed an oracle. He said, I slept in the shade of the Sphinx when the horizon god appeared to me in a dream, and the Sphinx was covered till the neck with sand. So the horizon god asked me to clean the Sphinx from the sand, and he promised me to be the king within a couple of days. So of course, after him cleaning the Sphinx from the sand, he became the king to fulfill the oracle, and he placed it between the paws of the Sphinx, and he called it the dreaming stela of Thutmose IV. And of course, that's one of the must-visit place. Behind the Sphinx, you can see the beautiful pyramids, one of the wonders of the ancient world that's still existing, and it's not to miss place to visit, of course.
Wonderful, Heba. Well, coming in at number 1, naturally, we have the pyramids of Giza. I remember, Heba, arriving into Cairo last June and seeing the pyramids from the car on the highway. And I started to cry because I just couldn't believe that I was driving next to the pyramids. It just felt so surreal. So tell us more about this site.
Okay, the pyramids of Giza, normally people will think of them the way you can see them right here in the photo, like in the middle of nowhere, and you have to drive like maybe half an hour in the desert or so to get to the pyramids. Unfortunately, this is not the truth. The pyramids are getting so close to the city, or actually the city is getting so close to the pyramids now, but normally you can still see this view when you visit the pyramid, because we are driving up to the panorama where you'll be able to see the 3 pyramids and even the 3 small subsidiary ones that you can see right here attached to them. That's why we call it the 9 Lounge, because every big pyramid has 3 small subsidiary pyramids attached to it. So we have 9 total in the area of Giza, and we have 105 excavated pyramids in Egypt so far. And the pyramids of Giza, of course, when you think of Egypt, you won't be able to think but about the pyramids. And actually, the Great Pyramid of King Cheops is one of the wonders of the ancient world, and the only one still exists till now. Actually, we used to have 2 of those wonders in our land, the lighthouse or the Pharos of Alexandria, that we lost it in an earthquake, but we still have the Great Pyramid of King Cheops as one of the wonders of the world that's still existing, of the ancient world. And if you look at the 3 pyramids here, you can see it was the one for the father, which is the one to the left, then the middle one is for the son, and then the right one is for the grandson. So 3 successive generations. That's why they have to build their pyramids in a kind of a smaller size and less in height for compared to the previous generation. But if you look right here in this particular photo, you can see that the second pyramid appeared to be as if it's a bit higher than the first pyramid, although in reality, it's about less by 7 meters than the first pyramid. Why? Because the second pyramid still bearing the casing or the carvings that used to have the cover that used to have on the pyramid itself. And the area that still bear the casing now on the top, it's actually used to have covered previously in alloy, which is gold and silver mixed together to reflect back the sun rays. We knew that during the time of Cleopatra VII, she mentioned to us that she had to melt all the caps for the pyramids and for the obelisks to get the coins to pay the mercenaries that she was hiring to fight with her, the Romans at that time. So here you can see clearly the cap that used to be covered by the electrum, which is the gold and silver alloy to reflect back the sun rays. So if you imagine the pyramids, the way they used to be, they will be breathtaking. Imagine them to be like off-white in color because of the color of the casing of the fine limestone that used to cover it. And it was smooth, very nicely shiny, reflecting the rays. And then very colorful at the base because it used to have a huge hieroglyphics, having the king's titles, his names, and so on. And then very shining at the top because it used to reflect back the sun rays. So if you imagine them the way they used to be, they will be just breathtaking. And by the way, that's still one of the secrets that the ancient Egyptians could not reveal, or nobody could not reveal till now about the ancient Egyptians, how they built the pyramids. We have two secrets that the Egyptians are keeping as secrets so far and succeeding so far to keep as a secret. How they operate for the mummification, even though that we knew all the materials that they were using, but the know-how, the equation, that's what we couldn't get to know with all the science and technology that we're having so far. The second secret, how they build their pyramids. When you try in modern time with the technology that we're having nowadays to build such a building, it would take you at least 10 years versus the ancient Egyptians that took them even less than that with very, very primitive tools like boning rods, flint, brass, not even iron, not even levies, because the wheel haven't been invented yet at that time. So to achieve this perfection of engineering, to be able to detect the star constellation. So it's not only that they were pioneers in terms of archaeology, but also in terms of astronomy, in terms of anatomy and science, you name it. That's from the inside. You can see inside the Great Pyramid, we have what we call the Grand Gallery, inside which we found 12 granite pieces. Each piece vary in weight between 8 to 12 tons of granite at the height of about 100 meters and at the inclination of a slope of 27 degrees. How on earth they used to transmit? Of course, they were quarrying granite in Aswan, which is 1,000 kilometers to the south of Cairo. They allow the transportation of those stones via the Nile during the floody season, but yet how they moved it from the dock up to this inclination and erect it and place it without any mortar or any cement or anything. They depend on the polishness of the stones that they would stick to one another like a magnet. But the perfection that you get to see when you get inside the pyramid or even from the outside and look at the huge size of the pyramid with its perfection of cutting the blocks and placing them with no mortar, no nothing in between, it's just amazing, just amazing. My favorite part.
Yes. Yes. So next on our list, of course, on our agenda is talking about food. Now, I have to say, I have several stomach issues, Heba. So I was really nervous about going to Egypt because of the food. But to be honest, I felt fine the entire trip. The food is actually super delicious, super tasty, especially the spices. So tell us about your favorite dishes.
Okay, so talking of spices, actually Egypt, one of the big markets for spices. For those who'd like to cook, you can get some saffron, you can get some cinnamon, cardamom, vanilla sticks, cinnamon sticks, all this, and it's very, very cheap here in Egypt compared to elsewhere. So for those who'd love to cook, you'll find everything that you want to buy right here in the big markets, whether in Cairo or in Aswan or in Luxor. All the local markets are always having big spice shops where you can shop whatever. For our main dishes that you will find it everywhere you go, whether in the big hotels or even in the streets, like a kind of fast food, if I can compare it to your burgers or to your hot dogs, it's the falafel or the ta'amiyya, as we call it here. It is made out of fava beans that we boil it, and then we grind it with parsley, some spices, and we add some sesame to it, and we fry it, and it's yummy. We eat it with bread, and we add some like tahini sauce or some salad to it. And normally people will eat it at breakfast, or they can have it as a snack in the midday or so. We have also the koshari, which is lentil, rice, noodles, chickpea, pasta, all sort of like cooked together. And then we add a garlic sauce with some tomato sauce and some fried onions on the top. You stir everything and you eat it, and it is delicious. Fool is the fava beans, and we also cook it, and then we add some olive oil, some cumin, and some spices. Some people with the, as you can see, some have some tomato on it, or some sort of like bell peppers, and you eat it also with some spices, and it's beautiful. We either eat it with pita bread, or we just make it sandwiches, and we eat it. Hummus with tahini. That's normally what we call like the Egyptian dips as our salads, that we eat it with our pita bread. So it is the hummus and tahini, it is the baba ganoush, it is the labna, it is the garlic paste, it is the feta cheese with tomato, it is some chili with feta, it's like we call it muharraka, all these kind of things that we eat as a dip with the bread, and we add some olive oil to it. Molokhia. Molokhia is like spinach. It's a plant that we grind it, and then we add a kind of a heavy soup to it. Maybe it's a chicken soup or duck soup or whatever. And then we have a special sauce with also garlic and vinegar and some onions. And then we make it so thick, so it's like a thick green soup like this, if you can see it. And we eat it either with white rice or with bread. And it's yummy. Then we have the mahshi. The mahshi is all the stuffed vegetables, you name it, starting from zucchini, eggplants or aubergine, bell peppers, tomatoes, cabbage leaves, vine leaves. It's similar to the dolmas, the Greek dolmas, but the Greek dolmas is an appetizer, and they serve it cold. For us, it's one of the main dishes, and we serve it hot, and we have a lot of spices also added to the rice inside, and it's delicious.
Thank you so much, Heba. It is lunchtime where I am, and so I am craving some mahshi now. Now, thank you again for walking us through the top sites and places to visit. Now, let's briefly go over some of the itineraries that we currently offer to this country. So first, of course, we have the Egypt and Nile River Cruise Tour. This is definitely our most popular and requested tour for Egypt. It is 12 days long. And most of the sites actually that we talked about today are included in this itinerary. Next, we have the Ancient Egypt, Giza, Luxor, and Cairo tour. This one is 9 days long, so a little shorter than our 12-day one for those of you who don't want to take too many vacation days. This tour also includes most of the sites that we discussed today. We also have the Israel, Jordan, and Egypt tour. So this one is longer. It's 14 days long and includes 3 wonderful countries, beginning in Tel Aviv, in Israel, and ending in Cairo, Egypt. And for those of you who asked, we will start running our extension into Jordan end of April this year. And lastly, we have a week in Egypt, Giza, Nile River Cruise, and Cairo. This one is also 9 days for those of you who prefer to have a shorter tour, and as well includes most of the sites that we discussed today. So now, Heba, we have a few minutes to answer some of the questions that came through. So let's pull some of those up. Let's see. So we always get the question, Heba, when is the best time to visit Egypt?
Like the best time starting from, let's say, second half of September till like maybe May. That will be the good, perfect weather for people to come and visit. In summer, it's too hot, especially in July and August.
All right, perfect. So we have a question from Sue, and Sue is asking, what is the tipping procedure?
Well, Egypt is a country that appreciates gratuity or tipping. It's not considered an insult at all. On the contrary, people sort of like expect it somehow. Of course, they appreciate the gesture more than the amount. But of course, if the amount is good, they will feel even better. But I mean, if you will just, give a little thing by and saying thank you, it was nice, or you give us a beautiful service or whatever, they feel delighted for having that. So it is acceptable and it is cultural actually here.
Perfect. So we have a question from Janet, and Janet is wondering, is it safe to travel to Egypt?
Very much so. I have to say that sometimes I feel safer here than anywhere else in the world. I'm not saying that because it's my country, but it's the truth. Here, women can walk along, even late at night. My girls, they go out and they walk along without any harassment, without any body to bother them. Even the incidents that we sometimes warn our guests about, like, be careful around the markets from pickpockets, from things like that. I would say that maybe every 10 to 20 or even more tours, when I will hear one incident regarding that. So no aggression. People are very helpful, very hospitable here. So it's very safe.
Yes, everyone is super friendly. I cannot recall a time where I felt even a little bit unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
So a question from Denise. Denise is wondering, do women need to always have their shoulders covered everywhere?
No, in certain areas only, like when we are visiting the Coptic area or visiting the mosques, that's all. Like when they are going around the pyramids or when they go to Luxor and Aswan, off shoulder is fine, shorts are fine, no problem.
Perfect. The next one is from Patricia. Patricia is wondering, is bottled water imported? Will bottled water be available on tour?
No, it's available on tour and it's not imported, and it's very good to use even for brushing your teeth. We always recommend our guests to do so. It's not because the tap water is not good. Actually, here we drink the tap water as Egyptians, but we always recommend our guests to do so because they're not acquainted with the bacteria that we're having here, and they're here for a very short time. So we don't want them to have a funny tummy or so during their stay. So the better thing to do is just to have the minimal use that they can use from the tap water so they can shower from. But even when they are brushing their teeth, we recommend the bottle of water to do so.
Yes, Heba, I actually made the mistake of taking my daily vitamins with water from the sink, and that caused me a little bit of stomach issues, but it only lasted for a few hours. But my friend said, even to brush your teeth, like you just mentioned, bottled water, always.
Yes.
All right. So next question is it okay to bring US dollars, or should we use Egyptian currency? And do they accept credit cards?
Well, in open markets, we don't recommend using credit cards because sometimes they are not acquainted by the conversion issue. So while they're withdrawing, they might not having a good amount or the right amount. So I always recommend to have cash when you are in the big markets, but in the shopping places that Go Ahead is recommending people to shop from, it's very safe to use your credit cards. US cash or Egyptian cash, both are accepted wherever you go, whether in the big hotels or even in the small shops in markets, no problem.
Perfect. All right, next one is the Nile Cruise portion of this tour currently running?
Yes, of course. I'm running one tomorrow in particular.
So exciting. All right, and then Laureen is asking, how much cash should we bring for 12 days?
Well, we always advise our guests that $50 will be enough per day for, for extra drink, for a little knickknack that you're gonna get from here or there, like a little souvenir. Of course, if they're planning to get something of more value, then they can use their credit card to buy that one.
All right, perfect. And then another question is, please give weather information for February and proper clothing.
February, which is like now, well, it's about, the temperature ranges between, let's say, Cairo and Aswan. Cairo could be like 20 Celsius. Aswan will be something like 25 Celsius during daytime. And then at nighttime, it's like 10 degrees less. So it's maybe 15 to 10 average Celsius. That will be the weather like. We normally recommend our guests to bring like, just summer clothing, but then to have a kind of a heavy jacket and a couple of pants, just in case if we're going out at nighttime, they might need this.
Okay, perfect. And the next one is from Carol. Carol is wondering, do women always pray in the back and men in the front?
Yes, normally in prayers, we kneel and we bend on the floor. So it's something requested for both men and women, not to distract their mind when they are praying, to keep women either behind or in a separate floor. So this is not a kind of a disgrace or a kind of a degrading for women. It's actually for the benefit of both of them, for her to be either behind or in a separate floor while praying.
All right, great. And then last question from Denise is, how much does a typical meal cost?
It depends on what you like to eat. Like our fast food or like our main local dishes, like the ones that we mentioned, these are very cheap. We're talking about maximum $5 to $10 for a meal. But of course, if you'd like to go in one of the nice restaurants and maybe you're going to eat some like seafood or like, kebabs or something like that, this might jump to 15 to 20 US per meal.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Heba, for answering all those questions. Well, finally, if you enjoyed yourself today, like Heba and I did, please mark your calendars for our upcoming Travel Talk webinars. We have a Thailand coming up March 8th, and then we're doing a special one on St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, live from Ireland. And then lastly, we have one in Belize for March 29th. You can sign up for any or all by going to goaheadtours.com/webinars. Heba, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories and insights and for answering our questions and sharing your favorite dishes with us. It was truly a pleasure, and I learned so much in just 1 hour. To everyone who joined at home, thank you so much for being here and for participating. We hope you truly enjoyed yourselves. Now, Heba, do you have any parting words for our audience watching?
Well, first of all, thank you, Claudia, for giving me the chance to give a glimpse about our country to our favorite guests. And I would like to thank all of them. I hope they've enjoyed it as much as I did. And I hope to see every one of them right here in Egypt soon. And please, if you're planning to come, please don't hesitate to come. You will love it. And I'm sure that you will repeat your visit once and twice and more. And we have lots and lots of events waiting for you. We have the inauguration of the Grand Egyptian Museum. We have the celebration of the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, 100 years anniversary next November. So we have so many celebrations, and we'd love for us to join us in those. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heba, and thank you to everybody who joined us. We'll see you next time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.